question about the power of the brain. If one morning you wake up and your hands start playing the piano like a genius, would you feel afraid or happy? If another person, after just one fall, suddenly becomes angry, cruel, and loses who they are, would you believe that the cause of both comes from the same place? Inside the brain, a living machine, more complex than any supercomputer ever built. A hidden universe, working quietly inside your head, every second, every minute. The brain stores billions of memories, processes thousands of signals in a single breath, and the most amazing thing, it creates you. We look up to the sky, measuring the distance to the stars, but we often forget that maybe. The deepest universe is the one right behind our own forehead. In this journey, you will hear real stories. A baby who can hear every language in the world. A man who survived after losing half of his brain. A genius awakened by a single accident. And even criminals with a genius-level IQ, but no conscience. In the end, you'll arrive at the place where science meets the soul, where the brain not only controls how we live, but also decides who we are. And a question will echo inside you. Can we learn, think, and live differently? Simply by understanding our own brain. Part 1. The brain. A machine beyond all machines. Inside your head, there lives a whole universe, made of 86 billion neurons. Each one of them can connect to 10,000 others. Together, that's more than a quadrillion links, woven tightly, alive, and changing shape every time you think, learn, love, or fear. It isn't a metal machine. It's a living network, a small electric ocean flowing inside your skull. From the moment you cried for the first time, your brain began its journey to learn, to remember, to react, and to rebuild itself to survive in this world. No supercomputer can do that, because no machine can change itself in order to live. When humans send rockets to Mars, they can measure the distance between galaxies. But the irony is, we understand the universe out there better than the one inside our own heads. There are 2 questions science still cannot answer. 1. Where did the universe begin? 2. Where does consciousness come from? Why do we know that we exist? Why can we say, I am me? No one knows for sure. All we know is, somewhere in that web of neurons, something is aware that it is alive. The brain doesn't just control your heartbeat. It paints the person you are. It holds memories, emotions, beliefs, fears, and dreams not yet realized. Every decision, every moment you pause between go or stay, begins with a tiny spark of electricity racing through billions of neurons and forming one thought, you. So if you've ever wondered, why do I learn faster than others? Why do I remember some things forever, but forget others like they never happened? The answer is here. Your brain is choosing what matters most to keep and letting the rest slip away like sand through your fingers. Because the brain is not only where we think, it's where we become. And if you want to understand how it works, let's begin from the very start, from the moment a newborn's brain is awakened by the sound of its first cry. Part 2. Infant intelligence and the power of language. When a baby enters the world, the first thing it hears is sound. That tiny brain can recognize more than 800 language sounds from around the world. English, Japanese, Vietnamese, even mother tongues the baby has never heard. All of them are already waiting inside its mind. But only a few years later, the brain begins to choose. Out of those 800 sounds, only about 40 remain, the ones found in its native language. In other words, every child is born a natural language genius. They could learn any human language, but in the end, the brain picks one to keep for life. A newborn's brain is like a magical sponge, soaking up everything around it. Sounds, movements, faces, light, heartbeat, even the rhythm of the mother's breath. What repeats, stays, what fades, disappears. That is how the brain learns. Not by memorizing, but by repeating and feeling. That's also why listening to English every day works far better than spending hours on grammar rules. The brain doesn't care about rules. It remembers habits. Here's another amazing fact. A baby's brain makes up about 13% of its body weight, while in adults, only 2 to 3%. It means the baby's brain is burning energy every second to learn, to connect, to explore the world. The adult brain, meanwhile, keeps only what it needs to survive. It learns less, but more selectively. So when you learn a new language, don't try to force your memory. Let your brain play like a child. Listen, repeat, imitate, and let it decide what to keep. Because maybe, through that simple act of listen and repeat, your brain is reopening the same door you once had as a child. The door to the wonder of natural intelligence. And if a single explosion could destroy half the human brain, and a person could still survive, then how powerful is the brain, really? Part 3. Phineas Gage. The accident that changed science. The year was 1848. A day like any other, on a railway construction site in Vermont, USA. Phineas Gage, a young, strong, disciplined worker, respected by his team for his focus and good manners. But in one brief moment, everything changed. An unexpected explosion. A metal rod, more than a meter long, shot straight through his left cheek, pierced his prefrontal cortex, and exited through the top of his head. Smoke, blood. Everyone thought he was dead, but he wasn't. Gage stood up. He spoke. He even walked. Doctors were shocked. He had survived, but the man who lived, Sam, was no longer the same Phineas Gage. He became impulsive, quick-tempered, unable to stay calm. and said cruel things he had never said before. Friends sighed. He's still Gage, but he's not Gage anymore. Scientists began to notice something. That iron rod, though it didn't kill him, had destroyed part of the prefrontal cortex, the area right behind your eyes. That place is the control room of personality. It tells you to stop before you say something hurtful. It lets you feel regret, compassion, and reminds you that you are human. Gage's accident opened a new chapter in medical history, behavioral neuroscience. For the first time, humanity understood the brain doesn't only think, it also feels. It doesn't only create intelligence, it creates conscience. And since that day, whenever people ask, "Who am I?" the answer is found not only in the heart, but also right behind your forehead. Yet from that very place, with just one sudden fall, an ordinary person could awaken a genius. Part 4. When Genius Awakens, the Savant Syndrome. October 2006. A simple accident, but it opened a door no one believed could exist. Derek Amato, an ordinary man. No fame, no special talent, just a guy who liked sports and played a little music for fun. That day, during a small gathering with friends, he slipped, and his head hit the bottom of the swimming pool. Darkness, silence, everything disappeared. When he woke up, Derek had lost part of his hearing and part of his short-term memory. Doctors told him he would need a long recovery and might never be the same again. But only a few days later, something impossible happened. He walked into a friend's house. In front of him stood a piano. He had never touched it before, never taken a single music lesson. And then, as if something guided him, his fingers began to move. Notes flowed out, clear, perfect, and hauntingly beautiful. Music poured from him, as if an old memory had come alive. Melody, rhythm, structure, everything was right, as if he had been practicing for years. Doctors couldn't explain it. They called it Savant Syndrome, a rare condition where an injury turns off one part of the brain, but switches on another, releasing hidden abilities never used before. In Derek's case, the accident weakened the left hemisphere, the side of logic and language, but activated the right hemisphere, the home of creativity, emotion, and music. In just one night, an ordinary man became a musical genius. Derek's story shocked the world. It made people wonder. Maybe inside each of us lies a sleeping genius, waiting to be awakened, not by accident, but by awareness and practice. Science calls this neuroplasticity, the brain's natural ability to reshape itself. It can rebuild connections, create new neural bridges, and keep changing throughout life. When you learn English, every time you listen, speak, or repeat, your brain is drawing new lines of connection. Every small habit, every 10 minutes of daily practice is literally rewriting the structure of your brain. Nothing is fixed, not even you. And if the brain can turn someone into a genius, it can also turn someone Gith, into a monster. Part 5. The dark side of the brain. When conscience fades, the same brain that can create a genius can also create a monster. Scientists at the University of Southern California found a frightening clue. In many serial killers, the prefrontal cortex works weaker than normal. That's the part of the brain responsible for empathy, morality, and self-control. When that area grows weak, empathy slowly disappears. A person may understand the rules, but no longer feel what is right or wrong. They act on primitive instinct, without the protection of moral sense. But the cause isn't only in their genes. Environment, violent childhoods, isolation, and the lack of love. All of these shape the brain. Children who are hurt carry those marks inside their heads as they grow. The brain can learn love, but it can also learn hatred very quickly. And so a hard question appears. Do we have the right to fix a criminal's brain? If medicine could step in, should we heal, or control? How many new chances could that open? And how many dangers would follow? Could technology restore morality? Or would it simply turn people into obedient machines? Ethics, law, and medicine all stand before the same question. We are walking a fragile line between healing, prevention, and control. And while that debate continues, another idea begins to rise. If the brain can create a monster, could it also be hiding other powers we still don't know about? Part 6. The blurred line. Clairvoyance and Project Stargate. There is a bold theory that the human brain is not limited to just 5 senses. It might see what eyes cannot see, hear what ears cannot hear, and feel what lies beyond the edge of physics. People call this clairvoyance, a mysterious ability that even science struggles to explain. During the Cold War, when weapons were not only missiles, but also information, both the Soviet Union and the United States raced to explore this hidden power. The CIA gave it a special name, Project Stargate. They selected people with unusual mental abilities, placed them in sealed rooms, cut off from the outside world. No technology, no signals, just a human being, and their own brain. These psychic agents were asked to focus deeply, to direct their minds toward a distant location, and describe what they saw. Some missions failed, but others sent chills through the world. They described the exact location of a crashed plane, and even the structure of a secret military base. No one could explain what happened, but those strange, accurate results were enough for the U.S. military to spend millions of dollars on this research for nearly 20 years. So maybe inside our brain lies an antenna not yet activated, a hidden door connecting intuition with space itself. Whether you believe it or not, one thing is clear. The human brain is an extraordinary machine, far beyond the limits of logic as we know it. And if it can truly see across space, then what would happen when humans learn to connect the brain? With computers, that is no longer science fiction. it is what science is quietly working on today. Part 7. The Future. When the brain meets the machine. The future is no longer a distant dream. It's slowly turning into lines of data. Today, scientists are chasing a bold vision to map the entire human brain. They call it the Connectome, a map so detailed that it records every single neuron and every tiny connection between them. So far, humanity has only done this with the simplest creature known, a small roundworm with just 302 neurons. But what about humans? 86 billion neurons, each connecting to 10,000 others. A maze without end, a universe inside the skull. To truly understand the human brain, we would need to process data equal to thousands of trillions of gigabytes. So much that every supercomputer on Earth today has barely scratched the surface. But this dream doesn't stop at understanding. Some scientists believe that, if this map can ever be completed, we might one day upload human consciousness into a computer. When the body fades away, the digital brain would still live. Its thoughts, emotions, and memories continuing to function. A digital copy of you could still laugh, talk, and remember. It sounds like science fiction, but it has already begun. Labs across the US, Japan, and Europe are experimenting with the first models of consciousness, and they believe that one day humans might cross the border between life and death. Now the greatest question is no longer technological, it's philosophical. If two versions of you exist, one inside your body and one inside a machine, which one is the real you? Does that copy have a soul? Or is it just an empty mirror? A reflection of someone who once lived? And if consciousness can truly be copied, then humanity must face its oldest and deepest question. Part 8. The question of self. Who am I? If one day you could store your entire self, your memories, emotions, habits, voice, every moment, every dream, inside a machine, would the person inside it still be you? If that copy could speak, could laugh, and remember every piece of your life, would it also feel pain, joy, and love the way you did? And if it said, "I am me," would you believe it? Science may recreate memories, but no one has ever recreated the soul. Because a human being is not only a brain, we are consciousness, the quiet awareness that knows it exists. That consciousness doesn't live in wires or circuits. It cannot be measured by brain waves. It's born from small, fragile things. A hug, a tear, a morning when you wake up and realize you can still love. Maybe what makes us different from machines is our ability to feel and to change for reasons we can't explain. For love. The brain can store memories, but only the heart and consciousness can create a real human being. And sometimes, we don't need an answer to, "Who am I?" We just need to know. We are still truly alive. Part 9. outro, and 60-second practice. Unlock the genius within you. Your brain is stronger than you think. It never stops learning, never stops adapting, and it can keep changing until the very last moment of your life. You don't need to memorize thousands of grammar rules. You don't need to force every pattern into your head. All you need is one small habit, repeated every single day. Because repetition is the language your brain understands best. Let's try a 60-second exercise right now. Close your eyes, relax your shoulders, and listen to the world around you. What are the first 3 sounds you hear today? The sound of rain outside the window, the hum of a fan, or maybe your own breath. Now, say them again, in English. The sound of rain, the hum of a fan, my own breath. When you do this, your brain is connecting 2 worlds: language and emotion, memory and experience. No textbook can do that. Only you can. And maybe, in this small, quiet moment, you've just touched the tiny piece of genius that's been sleeping inside you all along. Because to understand your brain is to begin to understand yourself.